you for joining, whether you're watching and joining us live or whether you're catching this replay somewhere on Facebook or YouTube. The free Zoom's called True Leadership with Horses. And really, it's kind of, there is a little bit of an ulterior motive in as much as it's kind of to start getting out into the world a little bit more about conscious horse, conscious rider, which is a specialty class of access consciousness. But it's not the only reason I wanted to do these. I also wanted to, so whether you ever attend a conscious horse, conscious rider class or not, I really wanted to just make available in this world more access to horses and what they contribute to us and what they're willing to contribute to us if we were just willing to let them. So it's really to talk a little bit about, because a lot of people think they see these conscious horse, conscious rider classes get posted and they're like, oh, but I'm not a horse rider or I don't have horses. But actually the conscious horse, conscious rider classes that I've attended and facilitated, a lot of the people that get the most change are those people that aren't actually what you would call quote unquote horse people. So that was sort of my other little, sidebar for wanting to do this, is to just get out into the world that you don't have to be a horse person to receive from horses. So thank you, ladies, for joining me. If you guys want to shoot me a question, or where would we like
I have
to
a
begin?
question.
Good.
Okay, well, talking about leadership, maybe a good question to start is, what is leadership to you? What does
Cool.
leadership
Yeah,
mean?
that's a great question. And this, I'll try and link it back to horses, because this is something, Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, other horse people out there have said, everything I've learned in life, I've learned from my horse or from a horse. And when I first heard him say that, I was like, say what? And I'm a horse lover. I mean, ever since I was a small wee child, I was born into a surfing family and we lived on the coast. And all I wanted to do was live in the country and be surrounded by animals and horses. So I was like, well, this is interesting. But I've always been drawn to horses. And when I heard Gary first say that, I was like, say what? But now once...
Key and everything, you put it back, have you? For the diesel?
I forgot to mute people. Sorry, Jackie. Let me just change it quickly so we go mute on entry. Give me 2 seconds. There we go. Done. Yeah, so when I first heard him say that, I was sort of like, really? And then you start getting around horses and looking at the way that they behave with each other, right? The way they behave and interact, and the way they engage with us, and the way they engage with each other. And actually a lot of what they display in leadership is sort of how I've always seen leadership. And so what I would say is a leader is someone that's willing to go no matter if anyone else is following or not. Like a true leader is someone that knows their path, that knows, where they're headed. And they're willing to just go. They don't wait for people. They don't wait. And I watch my horses, and when they want to do something, they go and do it. And they're an invitation to each other. So I have 2 horses at the moment. They will always invite the other horse to come along, but they never wait for the other horse. They're always this space of like, hey, I'm going to do this now if you'd like to join me. And you watch them and they communicate with each other, obviously in some sort of telepathic fashion, whether you believe in that or not. There's no way they can express words to one another. So they use energy, they use telepathy, and they use body language to tell each other what's going on. And that's for me what a true leader is. And horses, I've seen them display it over and over again. A lot of people think the dominant horse in a herd is the one that's picking on everyone else. But if you actually sit and really watch them, a lot of the time the dominant horse is very subdued and very quiet, and they never need to go to the stage, unless they do, but most of the time they don't need to go to the stage of actually getting physically demanding of the other horses. They have a calmness in their world where they show the other horses, this is what I'm choosing, and you guys can follow me if you want to or not. And 99.9% of the time, when that horse chooses something, the other horses follow along. So yeah. Oh, you're muted. I might have accidentally muted.
Yeah, that leads into another question. Like,
Great.
so we have now like a person on a horse, or the person does what the person wants. So what can we like be or do to that they want to be with us, and that they want to follow us, or they want to maybe even want us to ride them.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's that. I think a lot of people have had a bit of a misconception about like this dominance theory where we need to teach these animals who's boss, and you've also got to be willing to look at that horse and look at what that horse requires, because it's just like people. Some people actually require a bit more of a dominant energy when it comes to your interaction with them. And some people are going to actually absolutely freak out if you try to push them that hard to do something. It's not going to work for them. Whereas some people, if you're really soft and gentle, they're just going to walk all over you. And I think horses are a little bit the same, because they see us, I think they see us as horses, they see us as part of the herd in some way, but you've also got to really learn to talk like a horse in order for a horse to listen to you like a horse. So that's everything. Like when you're approaching a horse, what is your energy doing? If you're approaching it like, I'm coming here to catch you, more likely than not, the horse is going to want to walk away, because the energy of being caught reminds them of like that predator prey type energy. So what I would say is start playing, first of all, with energy when you're around your horses, or when you're around horses in general, and start looking at, okay, so what if I was being the energy of another horse right now, what would I be? And the other great question is, what does this horse actually require of me right now? So if you're wanting to ride your horses, also you've got to look at what points of view you have about riding, because how many people secretly have all of these points of view about, I'm a bad rider, my horse is going to buck me off, my horse is this, my horse is that. Like, we also usually enter into a conversation with a horse with a lot of these preconceived ideas. So what I would say with that, Uta, and it's a great question, is start playing with your energy when you're around your horses, and start watching what they actually require from their herd mates and what they actually require from you. But also be willing that some days it's going to change. Like, some days your horse might be in a very outgoing mood, and then some days they might just want to chill out with you and be touched and have some body work done or something like that. So it's this space where you've got to be willing to look at the moment and what's required in that moment, rather than being like, today I'm going to ride my horse, we're going to go into the arena, we're going to ride like this. For some people that really works. If you're a competition rider, or you have a goal that you're trying to reach, it's not trying to say that any of that is wrong, but you've got to really look at what sort of relationship you want to have with these animals, and it really depends on that. Yeah.
Can I just add something to it, or
Please.
ask another question? When you the word energy is often used in very, very different ways.
Yep.
For example, when you have the Pirelli or horsemanship training, they just talk about raising energy or lowering energy. So, to be a different energy, what do you do to be a different energy, and what do you ask to be a different energy?
Well, I would ask them to show me. So again, every horse, and horses are so different. Like, it depends so much. They're like us in a lot of ways. A lot of them, I just got a mare. She's 11 years old. You can tell as soon as you get her, she's probably had some tough years under her belt. There's probably been some times in her life where humans haven't been that kind to her. So for me, I work with her and I look at, what does she actually require of me energetically right now? And to kind of use that example of what your horse requires, like, I separate them when I feed them. I put one in my house paddock and one stays down in the main paddock, because they just fight when there's food around. So yesterday afternoon, I put my gelding up and my mare stayed down. Now, she injured her face quite badly about a week ago. She's got some cuts and abrasions on her face. And when I went to let Ollie, my gelding, back out, she actually came through the fence into the house yard. And, my point of view was like, I'm done. You need to go back in. It's bedtime, sort of thing. So I walked after her with that energy, and she ran away from me. And she's never done that before. She's never actually avoided me catching her. So she kind of got all the way around the house and came out the other side. And I looked at her and was like, okay, what is actually going on here? What does Willow, my mare, actually require of me right now? I would like to put her away, and that's obviously not her point of view. So I walked up to her and I I didn't lower my energy, but I got rid of the picture in my mind that I'm coming to catch you and put you to bed, because obviously that's not what she wanted. So I just walked up to her and I talked to her, and then I realized she wanted me to touch her face. Her face is healing. It's obviously very itchy. I also do a lot of the Access Consciousness body processes on them. So I stood there for 5, 10, 15 minutes, something like that. And I touched her and I ran body processes on her and I put a nice soothing cream on her face. And then I put the halter on and she walked straight back out into the paddock. So I don't think it's so much about increasing or lowering your energy, and that's part of it, but it's also looking at, like, what does this horse actually require right now of me, and where can I be that for them, and also incorporate what I require of them into that, but coming from this space where the horse is willing to listen to you rather than you coming in as this boss energy. And that's where, like, a true leader wouldn't walk up to someone and demand them to do something. A true leader would ask a question. So they would say, hey, what's going on with you? What's up right now? What can I contribute to you to create something greater?
That's
You're
amazing.
muted, Elisa.
Thanks, Sarah.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Sarah. Can I ask a couple of questions about the class? Sorry, I've got wind blowing here.
No, we can't even hear it. Zoom's really good. It like cuts out a lot of the background noise. We can't even hear it.
Yeah. So for people coming to the class that don't have horses, is that okay?
Yeah.
Do people bring
Totally.
their own horses? How does that all work? Can you explain a bit about that for us?
Yeah, totally. So generally when I do a class, I have horses there. So we've got some classes scheduled. If you come to my house and do one, we will use my 2 horses. You know, I'm coming over to Perth. I've got one lined up in Sydney. So really, wherever we go, wherever the class happens, and it's not just me, obviously, that facilitates these classes. There's a bunch of Access Consciousness facilitators doing a conscious horse, conscious rider class somewhere in the world. But horses are a big part of it. So we will always have somewhere between 2 and 6 horses there, just depending on how many participants we have. So it doesn't matter if you don't own a horse, if you've never even touched a horse before, you can come along to one of these classes. Doesn't matter if you're scared of them, if you're inexperienced, all of that. Then the second part is, can people bring their own? Well, yes. I mean, it really depends on the facilities, you know, where the class is taking place. So I would say if you're interested in having your horse at a class, look at the upcoming classes and approach the host or the facilitator and see about the possibility of having your horse there. Because for me, I would be open to it as long as the facilities we were running it in could house them. And then it would just be a matter of us using that horse only if it worked for the horse. We're never going to, in a conscious horse class, put the horses in a situation where they feel, you know, trapped or there's fear there or anything like that, because then they just stop receiving any of the class anyway. So yeah,
That's amazing. Something else is, like, it's really cool how you were saying how everything you learn from a horse, you can apply it everywhere else. I don't know what the saying is, I forgot it.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
you nailed it.
yeah. I'm like, in regards to, like, being willing to, like, be present with a situation, and then, like, say if something's not working out, actually being willing to ask a question.
Yep.
And like, go on. Can you talk about asking questions and maybe following the light and heavy energy, and, you know,
Totally.
going to more like trusting yourself in regards to things like that?
Yeah, totally. And horses are so good at this. They are so, my point of view is horses will facilitate you on anything. Like the things you think this has got nothing to do with the horse. Like I'm having a problem with my husband or my wife or my kids, or, you know, I've got this thing with my body where I don't know how to handle it. Like horses will literally take whatever is up for you and they will facilitate you on it if you're willing to lower your walls and barriers and, you know, ask a question. And I think really the key to what you said and what we've talked about so far is horses function from question. They don't function from answer or conclusion or judgment. They function from, and a lot of that is like, what's that? What's over here? What's going on there? Nothing. Okay, I'm going to eat for a little while and chill out. So when you're working with a horse, if you're doing something with that horse and the horse is not quote unquote responding, or it's not doing what you have determined it should be doing, that's when you get to ask a question and be present with that energy. Like so many times my horses, I've been like, okay, every time I have a plan with my horses, it never works out. They don't do plans. And, you know, for anything, like the times that I've had them stabled and I know I've got a lesson and I need to get them from the yard and get them in and saddle them up, 100% sure something's going to happen so that that plan goes out the window. Like, and this is where being present with a horse is going to take out all of that angst. And how many things in our lives do we get that angst with? Like, how many times do we wake up in the morning and we're like, oh, okay, I've got to get this done. And before this time, I've got to finish this and do that. And you have this sense of angst in your body and your world because you're way more sticking to a plan rather than asking a question. And the thing that you touched on, like everything I learned in life, I learned from my horse or a horse. It's like they have this place where if you're willing to be with them in that moment and ask a question, they will literally show you another reality and facilitate you on absolutely anything. Yeah. So what if, like, you guys that are on here right now or watching the replay later, like, what if you just chose something in your world right now that was causing you some sort of angst? Money, your body, a relationship, something to do with work. And what if you just took that energy and then you were present with it, like you put that energy in front of you, however it looks, and then you lowered all of your walls and barriers and you asked a horse, it could be your horse, it could be a horse you saw in a paddock once, or it could just be the horses of the world. What if you just asked them to contribute to you having more ease with whatever that quote unquote problem is? And just let them in. Like, to me, they have such an such an immeasurable amount of energy to contribute to us, like such a level of kindness and caring and, like, whatever word you want to use, help, support. Like, I just see this space that they have in their world where they would literally are willing to contribute anything to us if we would just ask them, hey, can you help me? Or what else is possible with this that's going on in my world right now? And just perceive, like, the peace that they have in their worlds. Like the space where they function from this place of, like, they don't need to know what's going to happen next. They're willing to just be in this world. And the only real point of view they have of us is if we're willing to be like that, they will literally do anything for us. If we're willing to ask them a question, if we're willing to get around them and not function from this place of, like, you know, need and trauma and drama, that they can show us a world that I think most of us have desired our whole lives and have just never really had an example of where to find that. Yeah. Does anyone else on here that's on the Zoom have a question? Please, for you guys, like, you can type it into the Zoom chat. Oh, someone has their hand up, maybe. Melissa.
Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
We are very new to the horse world.
Cool.
And our horse is a 6-year-old, oh God, I can't even, mare? The mare? But she's absolutely gorgeous and we've really connected with her so well. And
Great.
Obviously my daughter's going crazy into jumping and all this stuff and pony club and all this, you know, like every Saturday we're loading up the float. Anyways, there are days where it takes me 3.5 hours to get her in the float. And I've been asking questions. And some days I'm like, oh, this could be a sense of trauma from a float. But then some days it could be stubbornness. And I'm just, for some reason, can't come up with some questions that I could be asking myself or asking her.
Yeah. So is the only time you load her onto a float is when you're going to take her somewhere and do something? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing I find with horses, like, it's that whole thing I started out with, when you have this thing of, like, I'm going to go catch you and then I'm going to groom you and then I'm going to
like
lunge you 6 times this way, 6 times that way, then I'm going to saddle you and I'm going to do this. Like, there might be days where they're like, okay, cool, that's fine with me. But then there might be days where they're like, actually, I'd rather just be over here eating some grass. So there's a couple of things, like, I would play with float loading or trailer loading with her. What's your mare's name, Melissa?
Bonnie.
Oh, cute. So I would play with,
adorable.
like, what does Bonnie love? Like, what's her jam? Does she love food? Does she love being loved upon? Does she love?
Yeah, she
like,
loves food. Like, and I go out there and I you know, I put my hands on her and I give her like this deep massage, and she'll just, yeah, she just, and like for a 6-year-old, she's so calm, like it's almost
Yeah.
shocking.
Yeah.
But yeah, like she loves all that, and then all of a sudden she's just done, takes off, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I would acknowledge her. First of all, acknowledge her for the horse that she is. So acknowledge her
Yeah.
that she is the sort of horse that will take what she wants, and then at some point she'll be like, okay, I'm done with you, I'm going now. And the other thing with horses is, don't ever take anything personally. Like, that's another lesson
Yeah.
that horses have taught me over and over again. Like, how many times do you go to walk up to a horse, or you take its halter off and it just turns tail and bolts to the other end of the paddock, and you're kind of like, well, that's a bit offensive, like, couldn't you have hung around? Like, we have all of these human emotions in our world that I think horses don't function from. They're like, okay, I'm done with you, I'm going to run to the other side of the paddock now and buck and fart
Yeah.
and carry on like a crazy animal. So like, I would, and I think it's great that you're doing connection stuff with her. Like, I'd keep working on that, but also just know that she's her own horse, and some days she's going to have days where the trailer or the float isn't where she wants to go. So I mean, you can
Yeah.
play with floating her and then just letting her off again, and do it on days
Yeah.
where there's nothing else that she needs to do.
Okay.
The other thing is, give horses pictures. Like, they speak in pictures. So rather than
Yeah.
trying to like direct, even, it's almost like, I've heard Gary talk a lot about, you know, like an autistic child, they require to
Yeah.
know everything at the beginning. Like, you try to
Yeah.
tell an autistic child, sit down and put your shoes on. They're like, well, why the hell do I want to sit down and put my shoes on? But if you tell them like the whole picture, you're going to put your shoes on, and then we're going to get in the car and we're going to go to the shops and we're going to do food shopping and blah, blah, blah. Like, for her as well, what if you were willing to give her the whole picture of what her day was going to look like? Because obviously she enjoys being out and about, right? Being at Pony Club, being with
Yeah.
your daughter, jumping, like that's
Yeah.
also something that seems to really light up her world. So
Yeah,
what if you were
definitely.
also willing to give her that picture of, hey, we're going to go out and have fun, like today is horsey fun day, but then also give her the space that on some days you don't do anything with her, or you load her onto the trailer and you give her a couple of treats and then you let her off again, or something like that.
Okay, yeah, cool. We haven't really tried that because everyone just tells you so many different things.
I know.
But what was I gonna say? There was yeah, so like someone said to persist, and you know, and don't give up to get them on the float. So like I wasn't doing anything strenuous, but I would literally just sit in the float and just wait for her
Yeah.
to come on. You know, like it would just take hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, some days she's just walks straight on, but
Well, some days and this is again where maybe asking a question in that moment, hey, what does she actually require here to get on this float? Because once she's on the float, is she calm? Does she travel really well? She doesn't
yeah,
freak out? Or,
sometimes, you know, she'll be a bit shaky, but then some days, you know, she's totally fine. We do have quite a steep hill to our place, so I'm like, oh, maybe I sense that she's probably worried about going down the hill.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that could be it
Yeah.
as well.
there's a couple of other things that I would bring up with that, but it's probably more stuff that we would cover in a class. Like, there's probably more
Oh, yeah.
things that we could delve into a little bit deeper there, maybe around stuff going on with her bodies. We also delve a little bit or a lot into entities in Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider classes, which
Yeah,
to a
cool.
lot of people seems like a weird topic, but I was having some problems with my horse. And I called Gary Douglas and I said, hey, you know, this is what's going on. And he said, well, have you asked if it's an entity? And it's so, I mean, I've been doing access consciousness, and entities are a big part of what we talk about in this modality, or whatever you want to classify it as. And, you know, I kind of dipped my toe in, but I'm like, no, that's too weird. And he said, do you get that it's an entity? And I'm like, it totally is. So I walked down to the paddock, it was like 10 o'clock at night, did this entity clearing that we run. And the next morning I had this totally different horse. So, and then I was having lunch with him one day and he said, why did you not ever go there before? And I said, you know what, Gary, it was, and this is so weird, it's even weird saying it, it was too weird. I'm the sort of person, I've researched so much about horses, I've taught myself so much, like I did Pirelli, I follow Warwick Schiller, there's the TRT training method, I've done clicker training, like all of these things that teach us something about horses. But the thing I love about Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider is it goes beyond all of that. All of that's important. Keep doing it, keep using it. But there's some tools in these classes that you really don't get anywhere else. And for me personally, I am excited to facilitate more of these classes, because I think there is a good chunk missing from the horsey world. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are so rigid in how they solve problems that they're not really willing to look outside of what's been taught to us so far. But what if everyone out there that has a different horse program, none of them are wrong? It's more like, what else is possible here? What else is possible with horses? What else do I know about this world? What else can horses show me? And what if where we are with our horses right now was just the very tippy tip of the iceberg of what is actually truly possible to have with them when it comes to relationship, communion, like all that sort of stuff. Like, and that's what I'm excited about with these classes, is we delve into some stuff that you don't really, well, you definitely don't get anywhere else in the horse world. So, yeah.
So you're going to be running these classes a lot more often in Australia?
Oh, as often as I can.
I think I was inquiring last year, and no one really did it. I think someone gave me Viv's name, but I was like, okay, cool. But yeah, I can't make your one next weekend, or no, this weekend.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
So I've got Perth coming up in April. I've got one in Sydney in May, and then I can schedule more at my house. I mean, the cool thing about where I live is it's super easy. I'm on acreage here. I've got all the facilities, and I'm happy to use my horses. I'm happy for a couple of people to bring horses. So yes, there'll be more and more of them showing up as the future unfurls. So yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah, as often as I can. I mean, I travel a lot and I do a lot with Access Consciousness in my roles with them. But this, I would say, is at least as equally a priority to me than all of my other jobs that I do. So I'm really keen to get as much of this out there into the world as I can. And that's kind of why we're on this little journey now. So
Fantastic. Thank you.
yay. Thank you. Thank you for your question. So we might wrap it up in a second, guys. Does anyone else have anything that they, like a burning question, something you guys would like to know, more information before we end this little one?
I just want to say thank you every time you're doing those intros. It's opens up something different for me, and I'm really grateful.
Right. Thank you for saying that. Thank you so much, because that's really what I see horses as being, is an invitation for us to discover more of ourselves, discover a different possibility, and for us to together start creating a different world for horses. Because how many horses out there would like something different? Like, if you tap into all the horses in the world, how many of them would like to have owners that were more interested in consciousness than they were in getting it right? Like, how many horses out there would rather have people around them that were willing to ask questions and play with the energy than they would to have people to buy the next gadget or the next training tool or something like that? To really create a world where horses contributed to us everything that they truly are capable of contributing and that they desire to contribute to us. So that's my invitation to you guys. And
Amazing.
on behalf
Is there
of the
somewhere
horses,
is there somewhere people can find the links for the classes?
yeah, we could. Alison's on here. She's my absolute legend brain. She controls all my back end and takes care of everything. So it's basically, we'll post it with the replay, but it's I can't even remember now. It's my website. If you go to my website, sarahwatt.com.au, you will find them all on there, basically.
Amazing.
So yeah. And then if you guys are burning to have a conscious horse, conscious rider in your area, and you have facilities, or you know people, or also if you're like, hey, look, I'm on the coast, or I'm near the Sunshine Coast, and I know 5 people that'll come, I'm more than happy to travel to put on classes. I'm more than happy to accommodate dates that work for you to put on classes here. So yeah, just reach out to me as well. But we'll post the replay on YouTube, and we'll post how to get hold of me and where to find out more information. And then, hey, what if we do another one of these in, a couple of weeks' time or something like that? Yeah. Thank you, Alison. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Thank you for your amazing questions. And yeah, what else is possible in this world with horses? So
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Sarah.
everyone.
Thank
Thank you,
guys.
Sarah.